It's just kind of hard. Oh, we're on.
I think we're on.
It says 3 seconds.
Where?
Right there. They can't see it.
Oh, we've already started. Okay, so this is Don Self in Grand Junction.
This is Gabby Self.
This is the second video that we've attempted, so we'll see what happens. I think a lot of people liked the last video.
I thought it was pretty fun.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely had fun. I don't know about anybody else, but if
Probably
you had
not.
fun, well,
if we have fun, they have fun.
and that's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought today we would talk about some of the things that are really important to us. And I know what you've said is important. And do you feel comfortable talking about those things?
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah. And I'll even pitch in what I find to be really important. So between the two of us, we'll come up with some really important stuff. So would you like to get started? Or would you like me to start?
You start.
All right. So one of the most important things to me is actually the thing that's right behind me. It's not the counseling services part, it's Temenos. Do you know what Temenos means?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay. Really? You've lived with me all your life? That's okay.
All my life.
Well, you'll know more about Temenos than you ever wanted to know by the time that we're done. Well, I'm going to start off. Have you ever heard of a psychological principle called, this is boring textbook stuff. Have you ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
No.
Oh, man, I did not educate my daughter. Okay, this is stuff that I teach everybody.
More like I didn't want to learn it.
Oh, well, that's a good point. Maybe, possibly. All right, so Maslow was a psychologist back in the day, and he proposed that there were 5 needs that human beings have, and they're built up in a pyramid. So you have a bottom layer, and then it moves up to the very top. And I'm just going to go over this quickly, but for me, it's a very important. It's an important point.
Cool.
It's an important point. All right. So the very base level are basic needs. Well, what are basic needs? Food, shelter, water, air. And if you can imagine for a moment not having those needs met, what happens?
You die.
You die.
You're dead.
You're dead. All right. So we got the basic needs. And if we have those basic needs met, then we can move up and even worry about or bother with the next one. The next one is really, really simple. It's called safety needs. So that's things like structure, rules, things, when you think about growing up as a child, if we allowed you to run amok and do everything that you wanted to do,
I'd still be running amok.
You'd be running amok. And it would be it'd be a problem. And those are very important needs for especially children, and believe it or not, we don't outgrow it. We still need that feeling of safety. And then next one, if you're able to satisfy that need, then you get to go to belongingness needs. And that's being part of a group. And a lot of the young people that I've worked with in life, they get past the safety needs, but they get hung up because their families and the people around them don't provide them with a feeling of belonging. So a lot of them end up in gangs, for example. And then, they end up in the system that I've worked with for years. Then you have self-esteem needs. That's when you get to worry about how you feel about yourself. Now, if we went out on the street and asked people, what do you think the biggest problem is for people? And, there are obviously some social things that they would talk about. But if they were talking about individually, then it's how they feel about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I want you to imagine for a moment how many people out there have a low self-esteem.
So many.
And that's a really big issue.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the very top of it is something called self-actualization. And that is when you've taken care of all your basic fundamental inside needs, and then you start moving out into the rest of the universe. So you become less self-oriented and more other-oriented.
So you're more kind of like not too worried about yourself that you can't worry about others. So you're more compassionate towards other people, and you can, help them in ways that you can, after you're realizing you can help yourself.
Yes. And so Maslow pointed out to people like Jesus Christ, Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., that were definitely outward focused towards other people. So those are you got basic safety, belongingness, self-esteem, and then self-actualization. But it builds one upon the other. Because if you don't have the other needs taken care of, it's probably not going to work out very well.
Because it's a weird pyramid scheme. So if you don't have one, it's going to fall over and crumble.
Exactly. And then that brings me back to, it's not counseling services, it's the Temenos. And Temenos it's a Greek word. It means cut off or set apart. And it typically referred to a piece of land or a building that was set aside for a purpose. So that's where temple comes from.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And further on, and there's a few additions to that. So initially, what it came to mean to me, because a friend of mine introduced me to it about 18 years ago, it came to mean where warriors go to find peace, to lay down their arms, put down their armor, and be at peace. And, when you work in the world of trauma, I mean, I've worked with a lot of people that have just been battling life all their lives, and they're survivors because they make it to my office. And Temenos is, like, to me, the baseline. It's that safety. So if I could go back to Maslow, I would say, hey, let's rename your safety need as Temenos. That's what that is. And then this office, I do everything that I can to provide Temenos to people, to keep them safe, to make them feel safe. Which is, it's just one of my goals, because it's an underlying, it's an underlying need that people have. I think you also have to have a feeling of safety to actually do counseling.
In yourself too.
Yeah. And so it's not just about the place, it's also about inside here. What's in my heart.
Yeah.
And I work very, very hard to be Temenos in here for everybody, and not just in here, but wherever I go.
Yeah, and grounding yourself to help.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that's really important to me. What do you think about safety? Think that's important?
Yeah, I think it's pretty important. I mean, a lot of the times people don't really feel that safe anywhere. I mean, right now, like, nobody feels safe. Everyone kind of feels like, they're going to walk out the door and then they're going to get, like, blown away by the world or whatever. It's, materialistic. Materialistic, because, in the temple, or everything that you're explaining is, like, everything that you should really care about, rather than kind of worrying about all the things that are going on around you, and things that actually do bring you down and bring your self-esteem down, rather than fixing that inside stuff before you can go out into the world and not get swept away by the wind of any materialism or anything that is bad or negative.
Well, have you ever been to a cathedral?
No.
A Catholic cathedral?
Probably.
Or even there was a Buddhist temple in Houston, and I found the same qualities to it. You walk into one of those buildings, and certainly, cathedrals are not shabby, and temples are not shabby. They are very ornate. The thing about it is, when you walk into one of those, your focal point is outside of yourself. So you walk into a cathedral, and a lot of churches are the same way. Your eyes don't go to the ground, even though there's beautiful stuff going on there.
There's everywhere else.
Yeah, especially upward. And, that's an architect's attempt to bring us to something outside of ourselves. And yeah, I mean, right now, when you walk out the door, you don't know what we live in Grand Junction, folks. We got protests going on, and we live in a bubble.
Yeah.
There's a possibility that you'll go out and you'll see a protest going on, but it's people carrying signs, walking down the street.
Or anything, a car crash. There's some crazy stuff that happens in Grand Junction a lot of the time. You don't know what's good. gonna happen. There could be some huge raven that might carry off some kid or something. That probably not, but
it's the apocalypse because frankly, our ravens are about the size of large cats.
Pretty much.
Yeah, they could take.
They could probably take my cats.
Yeah, it's getting bigger.
No, pigeons too.
But that was the biggest sign of the apocalypse when I realized ravens are huge.
You're like, what are those?
And I posted that picture. I posted the video yesterday. I really wish I would have caught more of it because there was a dove yesterday afternoon that had its eyes on RC.
No.
Oh yeah, he was out there. He was kicking back, like, sunning, and this dove comes by and it lands right near him, like looking at you. Now I looked it up. I don't think doves eat lizards,
but you never know.
RC's pretty much he's a pacifist.
Yeah, so he would have just kind of been taken and wouldn't have fought back.
Well, at least it wasn't a raven. Raven
yeah, he would have been gone. That's sad.
And it's true. I guess my point was, if we were in a larger city, there would be a greater chance that we, like right now in Chicago, it's not just the crime that they have, but it's, they're still in the midst of, I don't know if it's continuous rioting and looting. But if I was in there, I'll be honest with you, I would experience a lot more fear if I was in a place like that. But you know what? It's actually, you don't have to be somewhere and experience those things to experience fear. And that's what's happening right now. Grand Junction, we're in a bubble, and it's kind of nice. We're in Western Colorado, and for the most part, we're left alone. And I like that. Even though, I don't know if I ever told you this story. I was at the gym one day and I was on the treadmill, which I'm not a big fan. I like running, but I'm not a big fan of the treadmill. So I'm running on the treadmill and I have two rules. First rule is you don't look up because there's banks of television.
Yeah.
Always showing things that I don't want to watch. So it's like, I don't want to do it. And I don't look down because that's a constant reminder of how much time I have left.
Yeah.
So I'm always just looking out here. And one day I broke my own rule. I looked up. And on the TV, scrolling underneath, it's a school shooting. 3 dead, resource officer kills assailant, something like that. And before I can do anything, the next thing I'm doing is I'm looking in the gym for the active shooter. It's like I see something happening maybe a couple of thousand miles away. And instead of me saying, oh, I'm in Grand Junction, I'm running on my treadmill, I'm looking. Just like, what am I
running from someone?
Yeah, then I start running from someone. And it's like, and then I realized, when was the last time my life was truly in danger? And I went back even 10 years. And I worked for the juvenile correction system. I've worked with kids that have done dangerous things. They assault people. Never felt in danger. I was never in danger. 3 car wrecks, getting hit from behind 3 times probably in the past 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I was like, people kept telling me, you need to get rid of that car. It's a accident magnet.
Isn't the Ford the Fusion?
Yeah, it was a Fusion. And I kept it until it died. But they kept having to repair it. And even then, even the 3rd accident, when it was a large work truck that rear-ended me and crushed the trunk, I still wasn't in danger. There was hundreds of pounds of metal between me and the accident. So it was on that day when I made the decision that regardless of how I feel, I'm not going to live my life based on that fear. Because I could walk out at any time, cross the street at the wrong point and get hit by a car and get killed. But I can't live my life expecting that that's going to happen.
Exactly. And that's why, weirdly, to bring my point in at that point, like in those moments that you kind of feel, you don't want that fear to control your entire life. But and sometimes it's like interesting because you want to weirdly experience it, or sometimes the universe just gives that to you anyways. And then you're just like, your fight or flight comes in. We all have
Mhm.
it, and we all, have gone through it at some point. But it's those things in the downtime that kind of keep you from thinking about letting fear run your entire life. Like for me, I listen to music,
Mhm.
and like I don't know, like the last like when I was growing up or anything, I never really listened to music, and I was never afraid, but I was always alone.
Mhm.
And I always kind of felt like, oh, no one really understands what I'm going through. And then, uh, granted, I started listening to rap first, which
Mhm.
was, you know, awesome, but I still love it, and I still love the way that music makes me feel. But then once I brought in my whole genre, I realized that I'm not scared of stuff anymore, because all these people that are making music have been through something, or they you know they give you a feeling somewhere in that music that you felt before.
Mhm.
And then you're like, wow, like, you know or like in a uncomfortable situation that you kind of want to get out of, maybe you go and listen to some music or something to
Mhm.
calm down, because it's like that's the only thing that brings you back to who you were before.
Mhm.
And I think that that's pretty amazing to use as a coping mechanism or a tool to not base your life off of fear.
So I want to be clear here. What's important to you is music.
Yes, it is important.
You did a good segue, by the way. Okay.
Figured
Well, I'm just okay. Now, I'm curious. What you started with a rap. Now, what kind of music do you listen to?
everything. I think. Well, okay, it started with definitely rap music. I was into the whole scene of everything, and everything that they talk about and rap about. And then now, after that, I had gotten into country music. I really liked country music. I liked the way that old country music would talk about life and the troubles that they were going through. And the way that they do, like, even bluegrass could get into country music a little
Mhm.
bit. And then there's jazz and like all this other stuff. Like, they kind of correlate similarly, and I never knew that until I started listening to them.
Right.
And like now, I listen to reggae most of the time. I don't like really listen to rap most of the time, unless it has lyrical information that like I can relate to.
Mhm.
And then a lot of the time now, it's just like I'll listen to beats, like just like I don't know, like binaural beats or some like a lot of slow beat artists these days like know what those like hertz are, and they know how to move their crowd and
Mhm.
get them like either pumped or to make them feel something. And so I'll listen to those beats and I'll feel some type of way, and that's like probably my favorite thing. I have over 24 hours on this beats playlist that I made in the last 2 years. And music in the last 2 years for me has just exploded. I listen to so much.
Are you familiar with bilateral music?
I explain it.
Bilateral music is really simple, and all the major Pandora has it, Spotify has it, Apple Music has it, and you have to wear headphones. It's kind of like the binaural beats.
Yeah.
Binaural beats work the best. Uh, Bilateral music's a little bit more simple. So you put the headphones on, and the song comes into the headphones, but it moves from ear to ear.
Oh, stimulates from the right to left.
Correct. And whereas binaural beats, you have different frequencies coming in, and they cancel out so that you get a certain hertz frequency that correlates to a certain
tone or
brainwave that you want.
Wavelength.
So if I want to relax, I'm going to do something that's got more, I think, alpha and theta waves.
Yeah.
Which binaural beats have been around for a long time.
Well, what's interesting is a lot of like EDM artists and stuff like that. And that's what's interesting, is that's what I've the last year gotten into. Like, I was never really into it. I've never been to a rave. I've never been, to a big old concert like that. But I listen to it and it takes you some other place. And that's why, all of those people who go to raves and stuff, they're actually very amazing people because they can radiate on that frequency. And so anyone I meet that listens to, EDM, I'm automatically friends with, because no matter what, we can sit there and listen to music and just vibe together and be like on the same page and it not be forced or anything.
Yeah.
And what you had said with the bilateral, like I do have a lot of like EDM songs. Like it's weird how that like, and in all my beat playlists, there's different kinds of things. There's probably bilateral by
I'm sure
everything. And I'll sit there for hours just like tucked away in my music, and then like even like listening to find new music for my B5 playlist. I'll like put a bunch on cue and then I'll find myself asleep like to like maybe an hour into it, and I'm like, dang it, I didn't even get to listen to the songs that I wanted to, but that's how relaxing it is.
Right.
And that's why I make the playlist, because as many times as I fall asleep, anyone who's going to listen to that is going to, be tranced out to just either sleep, chill, or, do whatever they can do when they're, in that wavelength.
Well, and the important part for me about the music, and you're saying this, music corresponds to certain brain waves. And right now we have so many people who are stressed out there. They have a tendency to stick with the music that they have always known, where they probably benefit by trying something else. Something that's not necessarily going to get you a bunch of beta or delta waves. I think beta and you scientist people out there, I'm going to get it wrong.
We just feel it. We just know.
There are certain brain waves that are more active when you're awake, and it gets your body moving, whereas they probably need to relax.
Yeah.
Have you ever used iDoser?
What's that? iDoser.
iDoser is a binaural beats app.
No. I do have this Intel app, and it actually creates your own wavelength, but in between different types of frequencies and stuff.
Yeah. iDoser is also programmable.
Cool.
It does. It's free, and it comes with a certain amount of doses.
Okay.
But then you have to pay for the rest.
Yeah. See, that's with this one. It came free for a while.
Yeah.
For the trial, and then I got it.
Well, iDoser's free for the entire time. It's just you're limited to the types of doses that you can have.
Interesting. That sounds a lot cooler than the one that I have. I have a bunch, but
you might try it. I downloaded it at one time, then I took it off. I might try it again.
There's this app called Calm, and it actually, I love that one just because they do all of the white noises, but they also have an area that they made playlists now for songs. So which was cool because I, beforehand I never looked at it and was like, I'm gonna go to my music instead of listening to just some white noise. And now I get on it and they have the binaural beats. And then now they have like artists that I listen to on my B5 playlist that are on there. And I'm like, told ya.
Well, they also have binaural beats on Spotify, Pandora, Apple Music. They even have them on YouTube. I will tell you right now, purists who are binaural beats guys and girls are not big fans of YouTube and some of these others. They will tell you that you don't get the full effect.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Interesting. That makes sense, though. I know a lot of artists have stuff on Spotify more than they have on Apple, or they're only on Spotify than compared to Apple. But I just the other night freaked out, thought I was going to be alone forever if I didn't have my music. Apple.
She had to bring it up.
I had to bring it up.
Do you have it now?
I do. I have.
It's been taken
all of
care
my
of.
playlists, 6 playlists back on my phone that exceed 24 hours.
Just confirming it's been taken care of.
It's fine. It's all good now.
So let's tie these two things together, because I think you can tie these two things together pretty well, because I think Temenos it's a state of mind. It's a state of body.
Yeah.
And you can get to that state of Temenos in a lot of different ways. from what I've said about Temenos is about safety. How do you, and since I dropped this on you, how do you get to that state of safety?
Like with my music or just like
Just in general, and I
in
mean,
general?
music can be a part of it.
Oh gosh, it's always music. I like it's so interesting like how I never used it back in the day to like calm me or heal me. Like when I'm upset, I'm like I'm just gonna go listen to my phone. Just sit on the floor, put some headphones on, and I'm like, okay, I'm good. And then, back to reality again. And that's what makes me feel safe because, in times that I do listen to it, it's almost like somebody's hugging me.
Cool. When you do listen to music, do you change anything else like breathing or?
Oh yeah. Like I think it depends on the playlist. So like they're all in B categories. I don't know why. I had to OCD it, but they're all in certain categories of vibe. And so, B7, that's going to be like kind of, we'll say, okay, I guess I could name out some artists that'll make you like Slender Bodies, like Milky Chance. He wouldn't know, but he would like the music. And they're kind of just like almost like vibing hippies, but they're not like, and then there's some beats and EDM into it, but it's also very raw and like instrumental as well. Like they're using instruments and beats.
What's EDM?
Honestly,
does it stand for something?
Yes,
look it up.
It totally does,
Google it.
But I don't remember. I mean, I listen to EDM occasionally, more or less when I want to like get pumped up.
I'll look it up later. We'll get back to you.
Yeah, but yeah, they're all in different categories, and I think it just depends on which one I'm in. But when I am in that low B5 playlist, I breathe differently because it calms me down. Mm-hmm. So when I'm doing that, like usually in those states of panic, I'm like B5, or
Yeah. Because what we want, if a person's experiencing anxiety, is we want them to have just a deep, slow breathing. Because when people have anxiety, their breathing becomes shallow, even if they're not aware of it. And unfortunately, when you're breathing shallowly, that communicates to the heart that there's not enough oxygen. And so then your heart starts beating faster. And so for the fact that you can listen to music and you can get to that state is awesome.
And it's so interesting because a lot of people don't. A lot of people listen to music and they're like, oh, that's good. They like it. But then, weirdly, I don't know what happened in the last year and a half, but when I listen to music now, I can like articulate certain sounds and go to those sounds in my head and listen to that. And then I'm just like conked because the rest of the song is still going and other instruments and stuff. And then I listen to the whole as a whole, and then it's like in my brain, and then I'm like, okay, well, that was music. That was awesome. That's why I listen to it.
That was head exploding.
Yeah. It always blows up.
All right, and we can do that. We can use music to increase our feelings of safety. Also, for me, with safety is recognizing what is dangerous and what's not dangerous. And that's a hard one for people right now. Because in the brain, the hypothalamus looks for patterns. That's all it's looking for. And it's like, is this pattern represent danger or does it represent safety? And the hypothalamus, for example, can't tell the difference between a saber-toothed cat, which is a predator, and an angry boss. Or which is even completely sillier, it can't tell the difference between a saber-toothed cat and a social media post that you find to be threatening.
Interesting.
It's going to respond the same way either way. And it's going to respond with fight or flight. So there's a lot of people, there's a lot of people out there that are getting activated by their social media.
Yeah.
Without really realizing.
Oh, yeah, completely. I feel like that's, part of the reason why I'm not scrolling through Facebook half the time, but I'm on my group posting music. Because when I read something and it upsets me, I want to get mad.
Right.
And that's another trigger. Like, that's another thing that, like you're explaining, like, it's not fun.
Yeah. What would you like for people to take away from what we talked about?
Listen to music.
Listen to music.
I promise. I
Listen to
mean,
music.
at least like everyone has their own taste in music. Everyone, decides to like whatever they like. But at one point in time, like if you open your mind up to the whole as like any genre, any of it, it could literally like you could hate it. Like Jeremy, he's a big metal guy. I used to hate it. I love it. And he always looks at me still as like, you hate it. I'll turn it off. No, I'm not turning it off. It's my car. And then I'm like, I'll get into it, listen to the lyrics, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's good. And it's when, weirdly we're in the same mood or something. So I think for me, I'd like for you to take away that, regardless of whatever it is, it could be instrumental, it could be lyrical, it could be, really, really high tempo music, or it could be really, really low tempo music. No matter what, it's healing in a way that a lot of people don't quite understand yet.
And I think for myself, the takeaway is when I look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I can apply it to myself. I want basic needs being taken care of. Do I feel safe? Do I feel like I belong to something? How's my self-esteem? And am I outward focused? And just as with the individual, we can do with that with a group and with society. And right now we're stuck at a point where people don't feel safe, regardless of whether or not they're actually in danger. I mean, truly physically in danger.
Yeah.
We can also be emotionally, mentally, spiritually feeling unsafe. In order for us to move to that next level, for myself, we're going to have to come together somehow to create that safety for us as a society, as groups. And that's one of the reasons why I want to support what you're doing and your friends are doing, and I want to support what other people are doing out there, because there was that old saying, or there was a saying from Mr. Rogers. He said, in a crisis, look for the helpers. And right now, in this social turmoil, look for the peacemakers.
Exactly.
Because they're out there, and they're right now, you can't hear them because everybody else is way too loud. But they're there, and they will continue to be there. Any final thoughts?
Mm-mm.
Me neither. How do we finish this?
I don't know. You nailed the nail in pretty good.
Okay. Then I guess we're done. From Grand Junction, Colorado. Peace.